Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to FMA discussion, episode number 80. Believe it or not, already 80. And I want to welcome tonight Maestro Jon Rister. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dean. I appreciate it very much.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. We're making the FMA world go around. Something like that.
Yeah.
We gotta keep that voice going. Um, how's just before we jump into things, what's the as far as your school and kind of status quo, what's going on in your neck as far as the whole COVID nightmare?
Yeah, it's I mean right now it's kind of, got us about 25%, attendance. We're having classes. Usually, we just have the students wear masks. Um, Pretty much right now we're still, doing classes as normal, with Kali and
Mm,
Wing Chun and I do privates, during the day. But yeah, it's been tough. I can't deny that.
yeah, yeah. I know, and I don't know if there's a better horizon immediately on the forefront. I don't know. you know, Depending on I guess who you listen to and all that. Who would have ever guessed we'd be in this 10 months or whatever it is, 9 months, whatever, you know. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's gonna do anything good anytime soon.
no, yeah. But all right, we're going to jump into it. If you're watching, please tell us, hit the like button, tell us where you're watching from. Thank you. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's first FMA experience. Who, when, and where?
Well, this was probably in 1985. There was a student of Inosanto's who just happened to, by chance, open a school like right by where I worked. So I just went to attend. I didn't know what Kali was. I didn't
Mm,
know what any of this
85.
stuff was.
Yeah.
I was actually looking for Taekwondo, of course, because that's what, right? It was the 80s.
That was the thing.
So I went and I bought myself a gi and a belt. And I showed up at the school and I asked one of the students, I said, how do you tie this belt? And he just kind of looked at me and said, what? I
Yeah, we
don't
don't
know.
do
Does anybody
belts.
know how to tie a belt? Right. And the guy was a guy named Kenny Redwine, is the guy that taught me.
That sounds
Uh,
familiar.
he's, he, he's been out of the martial arts for at least as I can remember since like 89. But
Red wine. Huh? Maybe it's somebody different. Okay.
you might know him. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in decades, but so I got my start through the Inosanto program that way. And I met Inosanto that same year, and Larry Hartzell, who was a student of
Mm.
Edgar Salute's. So
Oh yeah. Oh
uh,
yeah. Yeah.
you probably heard the name. I don't know.
Oh yeah. No. No, absolutely. Matter of fact, I went to a couple of seminars. Ron used to have him up in Connecticut. So
Yeah,
and
Kozakowski.
yeah. So yeah. I mean, obviously, stellar stuff. I think, but yeah. So this is circa. Okay. So this is 85. So basically, your first exposures, you went to a school nearby you, and and obviously their curriculum was the Inosanto Blend.
Right. Yeah, just by some miracle.
Okay. And so when you're jumping in, what was your what was your take on the initial experience? Then.
Well, to be honest, I really hated doing the sticks. I really
Mm,
liked the other stuff. The knife was great, and the punching and kicking I liked, and because he did JKD as well, of course. Uh,
yeah.
and I didn't really like it, but he forced me to do it. And and
Mm,
and then later on, I came to really, enjoy it. But at first, because I had before that a boxing background and
okay.
wrestling from when I was a kid, So I really adapted well to the empty hand stuff. And like Sinawali, basic Sinawali took me a whole month to learn to do that.
Sounds like me when I first saw it.
It's just like, what is this, right?
I had such a similar experience to you when I saw sticks. If I remember correctly, and this is obviously no fault of Ron's or anybody for that matter. I think it was a La Costa 17 count or something. And I remember thinking, like, good heavens, like, and then when I saw a knife, it just resonated with me. It made so much sense because, okay, this is very simple. I can't let that thing touch me. Whereas a stick, I had a hard time like equating, like, okay, I know it's a stick. I know if it hits you, but I don't know. I had a time. It didn't make sense to me in the get go. So I had a similar experience. You know. Um, so all right. So then you're okay. So Inosanto Blend, what have you? He's obviously bringing Guru Dan in. Um,
Yeah.
so so how long did you stick around at this school?
Probably about 2 years. And I was kind of teaching, some of the classes for him about that time.
Oh, okay. So like kind of like assisting helper, kind of so to speak.
Yeah, because like he would come in and say, hey, do this, this, and this. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, kind of thing.
Oh, okay, okay,
And
okay.
so when he kind of just stopped teaching, I really wanted to keep learning, right?
Mm.
So I just started teaching myself because I couldn't find anybody. There was no internet.
Oh, so because right, I mean, at that time in '85, it's not like you were finding an FMA school like right around the block.
No.
Even today, depending on the
Yeah.
state you're in, I mean, it's you're not
Yeah.
finding one around the block. But now, obviously, in Texas, being the big state it is, I mean, you guys, there's a big peak, Bikini Tertia presence down there,
Right.
and other systems. So basically, it sounds like he kind of folded up and moved on, or
Yeah, he just kind of, just drifted away doing other stuff because there wasn't a lot of money in it. You know what I mean?
yeah, but I mean, you're doing
So,
JKD FMA in Texas in 1985.
no, it just wasn't.
Yeah, yeah,
It
no,
wasn't profitable.
yeah. So after that point, you're kind of learning on your own or doing whatever. Obviously, no really resources, like as you mentioned, no internet. I guess at what point did you seek out Guru Dan?
Well, since I'd already been introduced to him, we just kind of every chance we got, me and a friend of mine, a guy named Valentin Espedicuata, um, we basically started teaching together because we were training partners, and
Mm,
we would bring in people like Master Chai, Thai boxing.
yeah.
We would go bring in Leo Gahe, Chuan Leo Gahe. We would bring him in, or Francis Fong.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we would bring these people in to help us train. And even in the early '90s, that was the only way you could get another instructor is to bring them in and have them do a seminar with you.
Yeah, right. I
And
mean, wow, okay, okay.
if you're lucky, you could get some private lessons, on the side.
Yeah, after when they were down there. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of the way, that I got started. And then, in fact, we even did a demonstration for the president of the Philippines in 1991.
Hmm.
There was like a Filipino arts theater, and they did all the Filipino dances and traditional, stuff they do,
Okay.
but none of them knew martial arts. So they asked me and my friend to come bring our students and do a demo of Filipino martial arts.
Wow. So this is
So
91. So just
1991, yeah, it was
okay.
Vice President George Bush and Corazon Aquino.
Okay. So I'm just as far as a chronological order here, just for the viewers. So kind of like a recap, so to speak. So your original teacher, he kind of sold the school, moved on. You kind of started seeking your own information, and then you paired up with this guy, and in conjunction with him, you guys actually open up a school, or what
Yeah,
was it?
yeah,
Oh,
we
and so,
opened
okay, so when you open up, so what year did you open up the school?
89.
80. Okay, so 89. Okay, so and at that point, what were you like? What were you advertising? What were you teaching?
Well, we were teaching at that time JKD and Kali, pretty
Okay.
much for the most part, and Muay Thai.
Okay, so from the guy who unfortunately, kind of sold the school and all that, so it sounds like you got ranked through him initially?
Right.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. And so let's see, so you pair up this guy and you're starting to bring people in. Um, was there a point you ever went to LA to see Guru Dan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, what was it like? How was that? Would you go see him in the seminars there, or the camps,
Yeah. They
or
can. Yeah.
the camps again? Let's
Yeah.
hear.
I actually tried to do some privates down there, but it's really difficult to get those.
I can only imagine everybody's probably pounding at the door for those,
Yeah.
and then some. But so well, let's tell about us. Like, let's hear about the camps for those who maybe don't know what consisted in all that.
Well, the camps are basically like I would just say it's like drinking martial arts information from a fire hose, right? I mean,
It's a pretty good analogy.
you go to the camp and you just get soaked down with
Yeah.
it's going to be Ceylon, it's going to be Kali, it's going to be
Mhm.
JKD, and even now Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I mean,
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
that shit's
depending on the
going on
era.
with a fire hose, and
Yeah.
so it's
Oof.
it's it's kind of a great experience to be there with all the guys, and
Yeah.
and at the school. At the same time, I kind of really prefer to be at just a regular seminar, to be honest with you. Just
Yeah.
just because it's
That would
it's
just
a
be
little bit
way
easier to
too
soak
overwhelming
in.
for me. Way too much information.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nice that you would get exposed to all these different things, different teachers. But for me, and everybody's different. Some people maybe they can handle it. They can handle just all that stimulus and all that information. I'm telling you right now, it would just be overwhelming for me. I'd just be like, that's and again, this is nothing against their style or methodology, the way they do things. But I remember just going to a few of the hard sell seminars I went to, and it just was
yeah,
like, and I'm trying to catch up in a notebook. And at one time, I just picked up a notebook and just because there was no point. I mean, I'd
right.
be writing, I'd be like halfway, and they're like on to like the next thing. And then if you haven't done a few of those seminars
Yeah,
and you're not clicked with it, man, it's just you're lost.
yeah.
Or
I was
luckily,
lucky.
you know.
I was lucky with Sifu Larry because he used me for his uke, so I
Oh, there
got
you
to
go. So okay,
ask
okay.
him questions while everybody was beating each other up. But
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Did he do the whole lock flow on you?
yeah,
That
yeah,
miserable lock flow?
yeah. Oh my
Oh,
God, yeah. And even I had the experience one time of telling him the second day, I told him, I said, Sifu, I can't, my ankles are messed up, my wrists. I said, I'm going to just tap early. And he just looked at me and laughed and said, I always tap early. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
what?
Oh, I remember just that lock flow. It
Yeah,
went like wrist
unfortunately.
cranked, and it's just like God Almighty. I used to yeah, that was interesting. Here, I just want to take a chance to say, hey, we got Andres. Hey, Andres, Felix. Hey, Paul. Hey, guys. Um, so okay. So interesting. So these camps, I mean, where were they held? Are these the ones out East Coast or?
Well, no, I mean, I went to some of the ones at the East Coast as well, and some, at dance school. And then we would
Mm,
we would bring, Dan will come to Texas twice a year. And, I would bring Francis Fong,
yeah,
every year. And we used to have Master Chai in,
that's
but
like the
I
big
kind of
three,
dropped
right?
out. I dropped out of the Muay Thai back in when I was in my late 30s.
Yes, too
You know,
tough on the body.
yeah, it's just, if you go kicking all day long and then you get up the next
Yeah,
day and you're like,
Yeah, it's
Feel
just,
on my back, my legs,
I mean, I mean, it was part of I remember doing it, but I don't know. It never really resonated with me. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
much
never,
prefer the FMA. I just sitting there landing shin to shin never really appealed to me. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what they're doing. I get the purpose, sport and all that. But I don't know. To me, they're just was a different approach.
Well, I was just talking to one of my students, Caitlin, about getting punched so much and being macho. It just doesn't. When you get older, you're kind of sorry you did that.
No, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is CTE. I want to retain my brain cells. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and teeth. You know,
Yeah, that's just
teeth are good.
wow. So, all right. So then, what? So 89. Wow. Okay, that's early part. Your school, fantastic. Hey, Gail. Gail.
Yeah, yeah. Gil isn't here. Okay, he couldn't make it. His car. Something went
Oh,
wrong.
sorry, Gail. She's gonna be. Better watch out, man. Her wrath is her wrath is pretty big. So, um, so then, all right. So 89. So you're, obviously you're having the big three: Dan, Francis, and Master Chai and all that. And then it sounds like you're going to camps. Did you actually like when you went up to school? Did you actually stay there? Like, would you do like weekends, what have you? What would
No,
you?
I really never would go out there and spend very much time because it's just like I said, I would rather train with them at just a seminar
Mm,
here or somewhere like Oklahoma close by than spend a few grand to go out there and stay. You know.
no, I got you. I got you. So what have you? But you've been to the academy, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. So like, did you ever jump in group classes there, or did you ever was there when like when you had guests in or anything like that?
No, I wouldn't. I really usually wouldn't do that. Now, we would sometimes, meet those same people
Gotcha.
out here. They would come out here like, Tony Samara, those kind of guys that live in Texas.
Mm,
So we
yeah,
never had
yeah,
the
right.
opportunity to meet and train with those same guys. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but no,
You know,
we
it's just,
really,
huh.
spent a lot of time, uh, researching and developing. My friend Valentin, he was a two-time world champion stick fighter.
Oh wow.
So we kind of parted ways at one point because he really wanted to go more of the sport aspect of it, and I really wanted to go more of the survival skill aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, so over, like, a 5-year time span, I would always be changing my curriculum,
Evolving. Yeah.
changing, because your understanding of the art changes, right?
Yeah,
So
as you mature,
yeah,
yeah.
so you start to change things, and so at one point we would be doing, pretty much riposte art, and then we kind of moved away from that when we found, just in testing it at full contact, there's still a lot of holes in it, So that's how our curriculum, we have a curriculum here that I developed myself, kind of based on what I learned from all these different sources.
Mm,
And it is kind of standardized, right? So you go through some levels of learning structure, okay? And then what we do is we kind of get you away from that structure. So about midway through or a little past midway through, we're going to start, getting rid of some of those things that are commonly found and taught simply because, the circumstances of using Filipino martial art as a survival skill, right, might not look the same as what you do in the training method, right?
mm.
Particularly if you got like if you've been to the Asano Academy, right?
No, I was just going to mention,
Okay.
that's one place I've yet to get to, and I hear it's not easy today.
No, you can't. No,
Yeah.
but anyway, so let's just say that you've been to some seminars where they might do 10 Sinawali drills, 10 double stick drills, right?
Mm.
And then so you're spending a certain amount of time doing drills on double stick. Then you spend a certain amount of time doing drills on stick and dagger. You spend a certain amount of time doing drills and techniques on single stick, then knife. And that's, we kind of do that for the first maybe year and a half. And then we start to get away from going stick against stick. So we want to go maybe stick against knife.
Okay.
Or knife against stick, or two sticks against a knife, or a machete against a knife, something like that is kind of how our structure works. So, from the ground up, you're learning things that you will see common in everybody's version of FMA,
Yeah.
and then you'll see things, you'll say, well, that doesn't look like, what we teach. But it is FMA, right?
Mm.
But it's also through my life experience,
Yeah.
what I have had to deal with and how I use those skills in real life. And that's kind of what our curriculum has kind of
I
come
mean,
full circle now. So it's very interesting,
so just getting back to the blend, before then we'll go full throttle and into what you're teaching in your school and what have you. I mean, as far as, Dan, obviously, I mean, is it fair to say Dan's been your primary influence?
Really heavy influence, of course, just sticking with his program for 33 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But really, yes and no, because my Wing Chun instructor, Francis Fong, is probably a lot of influence from him as well. And so
Okay.
I don't want to say this to sound, I don't know, but Wing Chun and Kali are almost identical arts. Okay, they really are. But here's the thing: I didn't even know that until maybe 5 or 7 years, maybe like 2006, we'll say. 2007, somewhere in there, I started to see, hey, when you learn the weapons aspect of Wing Chun, then you start to look at it differently.
Oh, okay. So when you say the weapon, the short swords there, the broadsword?
Yeah, it's not just the short swords. It's also a spear.
The spear. Okay.
So you have two opposing viewpoints: a short sword against a spear. Okay, so not to move too fast, but I wanted to make that clear. So a lot of my influence in FMA also comes from my understanding of Wing Chun.
Okay.
But and that's not to say that Filipino martial arts is inferior or, Wing Chun is inferior. It's just you see it differently when you have that influence.
Yeah. I mean, right. Doesn't mean one tops the other. I mean, yeah, gotcha.
Like Dr. Alfred, he started with me. He only wanted to learn Wing Chun. He really didn't want to do Filipino martial arts. And then one of the students, who was it, maybe Matt or Tony, that talked you into doing Kali?
You taught me.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I talked him into doing Kali, and he's probably, out of all the people I've trained, and I have students that have been with me over 25 years,
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
And Doc, you've been with me over 10, right?
Yeah, since 2008.
So that's 14 years, 12 years, okay.
Okay.
So he's
That's a long
probably
time.
one of the best fighters, or people at using the art, because he had that Wing Chun background. So you understand where I'm going with it,
Yeah.
But,
So,
I love Filipino martial arts. I really have a preference to teach that, if you understand what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, I most certainly do. It's my preference as well.
Because a lot of people don't want to do this, right?
Mm,
They don't want to do the forms, right?
yeah,
So I mean, and that aspect of it is a whole nother story. But definitely my influence from Sifu Dan, my influence from Sifu Hartzell because he was a Lameko guy.
yeah,
Really, yeah, that's two strong influences. Because in his later years, Sifu Larry was mostly teaching knife and stuff like that. After
yeah.
he
From what
broke
I
his hip.
understand, he and this is just from David Gould, my Lameko coach. He absolutely loved knife and the double stick from PG Edgar.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah. I think
uh,
it was Sifu Larry who did Edgar's visa to come to the U.S.
oh, okay,
Yeah, he actually sponsored his visa, so
okay.
they knew each other pretty well. And if you look at, you can even go back and look at some of Sifu Larry's old videos from right after he had his hip surgery. Look at
Mm,
his knife stuff. It's pretty good, you know.
no, he was. I mean, absolutely tremendous, tremendous. Um, so for far, just going back to the Inosanto Blend, I mean, and just to get your view on this, and and no right or wrong, obviously here. Some say it's not really, there wasn't a blend. Some say it wasn't La Costa, and a Sana blend, and all this. In your opinion, for somebody, if they were to come up to you and say, hey, what's with this Asana blend? Like what would be, what would your answer be? Is it in fact a blend of styles, or is that just kind of a cheap way, not say a cheap way, but an easy way just for a descriptive term to describe it?
Well, I mean that's kind of a loaded question because it might be, yeah, it might be that, but there's definitely you know an from learning from him and seeing all the different ways he taught over the years. Like when I first started training with him, it was pretty much Villa Brea system. I mean, pretty much everything we did came from um, the Villa Brea system, and then I I kind of in 1992, and this is kind of personal. I had a marriage go bad, and so I kind of was doing different things for 1 year, uh, mostly drinking, but okay. But and then the next year when I came back, he was doing something completely different.
Yeah, I've
And
heard,
then,
like,
and then you go to like Tulsa, Oklahoma, and train with him, and he's doing something completely different. And
mm,
you go to Atlanta because that's where Francis Smoke's based out of, and go to the camps out there, and he's teaching something. So you're just like, what? Wait a minute.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then for a period of time, he's hammering us with Balintawak, and he's
Mm,
saying you have to learn Balintawak. And I'm like, well, I mean, not that I don't like it or whatever. I was like, well, what about this and this, so I mean it's
mm,
definitely a blend, okay,
yeah,
and
yeah.
whether it's his possessive or not, right? I'm not on the inner circle, right? So I don't know that, right?
Yeah, to me, it's like the more and more people I've interviewed and talked to, it's almost to me like it was just it was a coined descriptive phrase. The blend. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying, there's not some accuracy to it. I mean, obviously, with the multiple styles he's done and taught and took, it makes sense that there is a blend. My thing is, from what I understand, there's obviously some systems there that really are the majority of the one system per se. And I guess obviously La Costa, I hear Piquita Terja, Dose Paris, the Vilbril system, obviously Heron system. I
Mm-hmm.
hear there was some Illustrissimo from Regino,
Mm-hmm.
influence. Obviously, whatever the one system there, it's escaping me. Oh my gosh, well, I mean, Lucky. look at, look high. I mean,
Yeah.
his father or him or like that. So I mean, those I constantly hear those systems as far as what generally makes up comprises the the main influence of the system. I guess. I mean, obviously, I know there's others in there, of course. Um, is it fair to say at one time or another you got exposure to some or that, whether it be via camps, this, that, the other thing?
Well, definitely, yeah. I mean, there's definitely, I mean, it's like a grab bag of
Mm,
now, as far as, La Casa Inosanto system, I mean, uh, well, what we teach, I have like a list of categories, okay?
hmm
12 areas,
Okay.
okay? 12 levels, okay? And then that's kind of what we do. It's like a blend of, we don't necessarily care about the system so much. It's more really for me about, okay, you establish a curriculum,
Mm,
and then you use maybe influences from one system or another to give you technical elements, right?
sure,
And
sure.
and who the heck really knows where that comes from?
No, no argument here.
Because you go to any Filipino in the Philippines, they're going to tell you it's this, and you go 5 miles down the road, and they're going to tell you something else.
Yeah. No, yeah,
You know,
yeah. No,
and
absolutely. Yeah, sometimes when you're trying to seek out where it came from, the truth, it's it's like no matter how many rocks you turn over, you're still not finding out or finding the that hidden information.
well, there's a good quote that I heard. There's really two truths. Okay, the one that is true,
Mm,
and then what you're going to learn is true.
yeah. Yeah.
Because as you grow in life, you're gonna learn things, and you're gonna go, "Wow, I thought it was that."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's been my journey pretty much
Yeah, no,
is
no. I mean, right. As you go
like
through
that.
this, your truth changes too. Your perception of it changes. You know what I mean? The more
Right.
you're exposed to, the more you see, the more you find out. Yeah, as you mature more, not only in age and all that, but also getting your understanding of these systems, the truth does, or your version of truth, what it was, can and will change, for sure.
Sure.
We can just, those who are watching who maybe never had experience with Guru Dan, what can you tell us about him as, what really inspires you about him as a teacher or resonates with you?
Really, I would have to say the first thing that I notice is really, um, he really is a genuine, caring individual.
Mm.
I mean, I don't think he would really hurt a fly.
No, yeah, I've heard that. He's reluctant to even hurt anybody's feelings or whatever. Yeah,
I
yeah, I've
don't
heard
think. I mean, I get that sense from him and from talking to him, and
it.
and I don't think he would want to stick a knife in someone's gut.
Yeah, no, I've heard nothing but the opposite. Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, and then as a teacher, he's really the history he can teach is incredible,
Mm,
and of course, everybody can argue that we don't know, right? I
yeah.
mean, but his, he's just an eternal student. That's the way I see him. Like I said, every time I see him, he's pulling something out of his hat. I'm like, what the heck is that?
No, just the fact that he's continuing to further his education and all that at the age he is I mean, that alone is inspiring. I mean, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't claim that same thing myself as far as,
Mhm.
I mean, there's some things I see and I just go, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. No, no,
uh,
understood. Yeah, understood.
so I respect him for that highly. Just his willingness to constantly investigate new things. You
Mm,
know, and then just he's always every time I see him, there's something I pick up that I didn't know before.
yeah,
You know,
and
and,
that's
and You might have taught it 100 times. I just didn't pick it up. So
Yeah, right. I mean, that
that's
alone
still the fire hose experience, right?
is,
It's like drink. You want to drink? Here, there's a fire
yeah,
hose.
yeah.
So
You know,
that part,
mm,
luckily, I always had students with me who take notes.
mm,
And so I had one student, Dwight, and he would take really just excellent notes, right?
okay.
But then he's got to sit there half the time writing, you know. So luckily I had like people with me that to train with that I knew. Because if you
Yeah,
showed up to a seminar and you didn't have a training partner, you basically
yeah. I couldn't imagine like on top of like, yeah, and not having any familiarity with anybody there, and then here comes the information pouring out like the sinking vessel. Yeah, that's yeah, man, that's not a good day.
yeah, I try not to do that.
Yeah.
When I teach, I try to keep it really simple and break it
Yeah,
down.
same, yeah. To me, less is more. You know what I mean? But I get it. He's on the
Sometimes it is.
seminars. He's got to get stuff out. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? I understand. What's going on. It's just, yeah. But what? Okay. So far as is there a particular system within the blend that you really have others that really attracted you? Or let's make it a dual part question. System within the system, I guess, if you could say that you really enjoy the elements that you saw, that maybe it didn't have to be you saw in its whole entirety, but just elements, and favorite weapon within the blend, or
Wow, I don't know to answer that question accurately. It probably have to be five things for each, but I really like the fact that, okay, let's not talk about systems. Let's just talk about principles,
sure, yeah, if you want, sure,
like long range
okay,
and learning long range, and then the aspects of it, like broken timing and that kind of thing.
mm,
Those really struck me, and then of course, going from long to middle range, and being able to create opportunities with an opponent, create, let's just say, create the opponent's movement, right?
okay,
Those kinds of things. I think what really attracted me to his teaching is more what he didn't teach, but said. I don't know if that makes sense.
no, it does to me, it does, sure,
So he didn't really teach it, but he said it, and then we did several exercises, click, click, click.
mm,
So what he said about that really resonated with me. And so that I would covet, right? And I would take it home with me and just develop that
oh, more to it,
with my students.
hmm
So I would have to say my best instructors are my students, because they're with me every day, right?
That's wow. That's the first I've ever, of all the interviews I've had up this point. That's the first time I've had anything that kind of mentioned that or brought that out, like how your students actually help you in your journey are in a significant part of it. That is so true. Wow. Good
Yeah,
on
my
you.
goodness. I would tell you that I've had students that, not just like Doc that's been around like a long time with me, or Dwight that's been around with me for a long, like over 20 years. I've had students that have been with me for like a week that would teach me something, and I would just go, whoa, I've got to now go back and change what I'm teaching, because what this guy, you remember him? Big goofy guy with no training. When you
Mm.
put a knife in his hand and have him attack you, you're gonna
You know,
lose.
it's so funny.
You're gonna
Knife
say,
brings that out. What is it with knife and bring? I tell you, it's so true. Like, some of the most different things, or the things I had to think about. Man, how am I going to defend against that, or that? But it's like people just like with knife, just doing like coming out something crazy or something completely unorthodox,
yeah,
and you're just like, wow.
That's what I mentioned Wing Chun, because think about, these are just plastic, right? I have
Yeah,
metal.
the butterflies. Okay.
But think about dealing with a guy who's got 2 of these and he's just going to chop just right. So
Mm,
your tactics, right, of knife have to be able to defeat this. A guy with 2 knives have to.
yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you're going to tell the guy in the street who just picked up 2 kitchen knives, right, and he's coming after you, put one down, or
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
give me one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In fact, I have a guy here, one of my students' his family, he got stabbed with a kitchen knife, right? Went
That's the most
almost all the way through his
common.
body.
Most common kitchen
Most
knife.
common thing. So that's why I say this influenced me so much, because the tactics to deal with this, I can't get it in the camera, really will affect how you train in knife. And it affected me in a big way. And also with the Inosanto, I have to say that too, is the double knife that he did.
Mm-hmm.
At first, we would just go through it by the numbers and you're like, yeah, this is just, we're just killing time here, right?
Yeah.
But then that one word that he says, it goes in and kind of into my brain and kind of scrambles around for about a month. And then I realized what he was teaching wasn't necessarily the technique, but the understanding of it.
Okay.
And so that's what another thing I appreciate from training with him is some of the subtleties that you don't pick up on if you're watching him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too much going on.
Yeah.
But I told Lloyd DeJong this.
Oh, my
He's
man,
from the
Lloyd.
Piper system, right?
Oh, it's my Piper coach. Yeah.
Yeah, Lloyd. I told him, sometimes when I see Seafood Dan, I won't even watch what he's doing. I just listen.
Yeah. Let's distract you. Like, I'm not looking.
Yeah, because I just want to hear what he has to say, because if I look,
Yeah.
and many times my students will tell me, we'll get up and I'll ask him, what did he do? I don't know. What are we supposed to do now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to take in a different wavelength of information.
Because we're so visual. So sometimes you get caught so up in the visual, like what he's doing, like you're not even really hearing what's going on. So I don't know, that could be like a different approach, like not looking but just listening, and to have somebody else look. You do the listening.
Yeah.
Like a 2-man show. One's listening, one's looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really. I mean, that can help you,
Yeah. Yeah.
It can. I know for me, it had a profound effect on me, myself, I can't say what it would do for anybody else, but.
I don't know. I think it's interesting. If I ever go to another seminar with 2 people, I'm going, hey, I'm going to tell the person, let's try this. You look. I'm just going to put my head down and listen, and see
You
what
might find that you
see what
might
comes
find
out
that
of
you
it.
don't need to take notes now, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can't hurt, right? Right. So then, all right. Again, if it helps, pick 2. Favorite weapon to train.
Well, I really love to train and teach knife,
Yeah, no argument here.
because that.
That's what you're
I
gonna see.
mean, that
That's what you're
leaves
gonna
it
see out
without
there.
questions.
Yeah, that's what you see out there. That's what you're gonna see out there. I put most of my time is absolutely knife on knife or empty hand against knife. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I like machete too, like a
Yeah.
machete.
Yeah.
Because here in Texas, if
Yeah,
you
you guys
go,
can carry.
yeah, we could carry it, but every construction vehicle,
Yeah.
like my student has a business right next door to me.
Mm.
He pulls in his trailer, there's 2 machetes in a bucket.
Yeah,
Just in the
you're in
back of his
Connecticut,
trailer,
man.
for
You're gonna
cutting.
get pulled over and.
So I like that aspect very, very much. And I base all of my stick stuff on the blade,
Mm.
because I really believe, like, people think of a stick as being round. Can you grab me a stick stuff? Not the big one, just, out of my bag there. Yeah. So I should have had this out, but
That's all right. No worries.
so I think of a stick, okay? So everybody thinks a stick is round, okay? A stick has 4 sides. So you have the front blade
Yep.
and you have the back edge blade,
Yep.
right? Not in the camera, right? Okay, then you have this blade and this blade, right? So you have your what? That striking surface, that striking surface, that striking surface, and the back striking surface. Then you have the crown of the stick.
Mm.
So everybody says you want to use the last 1 to 3 inches of the stick. Okay. For me, I want to use the crown. Okay. Just the very tip, because when that makes contact, it's going to pull flesh away.
No, that's what's cutting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to cut. If you hit someone in the eye and the nose,
Oh, no,
that's
absolutely.
gone.
Yeah, and if it's not smooth, it's a little jagged and
Yeah.
rugged at the end. Oh, that's tearing.
Yeah,
With
that'll tear
with
the
throwing the
flesh.
point, throwing the. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I like
So
that.
that's what if I had to say 2 things, it would be blade, both blade oriented.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You know, I mean, I enjoy stick. I like it. It's almost a lot of times like the obligatory weapon you have to do. I mean, you do FMA, but you don't do stick.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and there's some things I definitely like. I'm not, however, it's far from my favorite weapon. Far from my favorite FMA module, you know?
It's good for training, right?
You know?
So you're not going to smash your partner's hand. You know, if you hit them even with the training blade. So I lost that finger, right? Completely.
Mm.
So it's like shorter than the other one. I don't know if you could even see that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
So they had to take the middle joint out. It got smashed so bad. And that's
Oh,
not pleasant experience,
ouch.
right? It was very unpleasant, right?
I can't, yeah, that, yeah.
So, you know, a stick will save you that damage when your partner makes a mistake, right? Because put your finger between 2 pieces of metal, the metal wins.
Does it ever?
You
Yeah,
know,
I haven't seen anybody beat metal yet.
yeah, it's hard. That's probably why we use it to make knives, right?
Yeah, you know, I haven't met that person yet. Wow. So then, all right, let's get into I mean your school. So obviously you started let me just make sure I get comments here. Young Arthur Smith, caring individual. Yeah, sounds like he is. Asking me why do we do that made me realize I was teaching them, huh? And the four blades, I'm taking that home, Andres. um, but so all right, so you've been around 1989. You kind of alluded to why you use. So is it fair to say you used a blend in the beginning for coordination, beginning aspects, foundational skills, and then after that you kind of deviate into kind of your own experience, hence creation, what you found maybe through training partners.
Right.
Okay, let's hear it. Okay.
Yeah. So something that we learned. I'll have a couple of my students demonstrate, and then.
Oh, all right. That's perfect. Perfect.
So, like for instance, with very typical with knife. Can you do this one? Sorry. So, Caitlin here and Dr. Alfred, we're going to do it with
Okay.
soft knives, okay? So I'll have them do it kind of slow, but they're going to use soft knives.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
so something I learned with knife is, you know, very typical. If you guys just kind of spar a little bit. So you can see if they're sparring, very typical. No matter if one person is trained a long time and one person a year or so, there's going to be a lot of ties, right?
Yeah.
A lot of ties. So, you know, I kind of found out through a lot of painstaking development with my students and through other means that it's better for one person. Can you just give her like, so instead of doing a numbering system, I'll just have him attack her with non-specific numbers.
Okay.
She'll have to recognize whether it's a thrust or a slash or a forehand or backhand. And we call center line discipline will help her deal with his attacks. So
Okay.
if you just do your thing a couple times. So she's just going to keep kind of keep the knife close to her body. And if he attacks her, she's going to use that against him.
Okay.
So
And staying off
kind of,
center.
that's kind of how we do the knife.
Yeah.
That's not it, but that would be like our basic level. And then let's say up to level 4, you know, they're feeding you by the numbers, right?
Okay.
And then later they're faking, they're giving you
Right. Okay. Okay.
false intentions, and that person is not doing it by the numbers.
Okay.
In fact, I would prefer that they not like, you know, a thrust at the heart or a thrust at the stomach or slash at the throat is fine. And you won't find a lot of backhands coming out if you watch someone get murdered. Usually they're being stabbed, right? Or they're being stabbed.
No, right.
You
Yeah.
don't see a lot of numbering systems in videos.
No, it's sewing machine or
yeah.
Yeah.
And so what we do is kind of preventing that person from sewing machine, right? Now, if I do it with Doc, get it, another one. So if we do it like this, if he attacks me, for instance, this is something very typical. Let's just call it out of Inosanto Blend that I learned, right? So when he thrusts this, I'm going to scissor it, right?
Yeah.
Well, what I found out is a lot of times you're going to get cut too.
Yeah. On the thrust, man.
I took that and I just said, that's over here now. Okay, that's it. So when he thrusts me, I really move my body and I let him skewer his own. So now this is bone on blade.
Yeah.
If he retracts it, that's when I cut him. And this is where they say what's the name of the math guy from Greece? Can you say it to him?
It's talking about Euclid.
Euclid?
I can't say that word. But
Okay.
it's a mathematical equation. When I move to this position, I have the advantage, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what we're looking for, you know, in knife. I really don't want to go right here. I don't want to put my hand there because now he's got something to bounce off of, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of want to use the blade to interrupt his motion.
No
However,
steel.
I will use this as well, so that it's harder for them to predict my response.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So that would be something that kind of we want to get the student to get in the habit of. And we have a saying, you know, put yourself in a position where you don't have to address the weapon. So if you're in a position where you don't have to address the weapon, it takes a lot of the sting out of the blade.
Okay.
Right? Now we know that can't be done all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's the
Right.
long range, right? So as opposed to you know, going here to right, I know I'm not going to win that game against most of my students because I'm older than most of them, right?
Right.
So I got to cheat. So how can I find a way to make them make a mistake? Is kind of the game plan there. Then maybe the next level. Can you do it with short sticks? Brad, can you help? So let's just say that the think of these as machetes.
Okay.
So when they're facing each other here, just kind of getting camera, both of them. Can you see both of them?
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah.
It's going to be kind of hard to do this because they're going to want to move. But if you look at their position, they're face to face, right?
Correct.
And so they're basically squared off. So we don't want to do that because we know there's going to be a lot of exchanges, right? So what one of them is going to do, maybe go open position, Brad. So you see how he moves his weapon out of the center line?
Gotcha.
And this gets this guy to looking at him and thinking, oh, there's an opening right down the middle.
Okay.
Easy shot.
Right.
So he's just going to draw him in. Go ahead, Doc, swing. And that's where the cut, the counter attack will come in. So essentially what you're doing there is getting the person to unseat, right?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is to take that step, right?
Mm.
Okay, but for that to be effective, you have to know the fighting measure, right?
Yeah.
You have to know the fighting measure, and you have to be able to distance pace. So in other words, the fighting measure is the distance at which an opponent must lunge to hit you.
Okay.
Okay, you have to have that. Then you have to have the ability to maintain that if they start to circle you or whatever. That's distance pacing, right? So fighting measure, distance pacing, then he'll learn to bait his opponent or draw him down so he can strike him clean, right? That's kind of what we start to do with them after they have that basic structure, right?
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And really, this didn't. I wasn't taught this by Inosanto directly. This is something that we developed, okay, through myself and different influences that I've had that are not from the Inosanto family,
Mm.
but just the understanding of movement and psychology, right? And Lloyd will tell you a lot about that, right? So the opposite of Doc, if he turns and he goes what we call closed position. Now everybody has what they call abierta, open,
Or
and
Sarada. Yeah.
cerrada, closed.
Yeah.
But ours is a little bit different because see this weapon, even though it's enclosed, also his center line is skewed. So he's not
Mm.
really facing the opponent.
Okay.
So if this guy attacks, he knows where he's going. So by
Mm.
positioning himself a certain way, that Doc in this case knows which direction he's going to move, regardless of what he does. But this guy, if he's just trying to attack you, is probably going to strike this open area, right? He's probably
Yeah.
not going to strike the weapon.
Okay.
So that's again what we call drawing. We're just trying to get that person to make that step, right?
The commitment. Okay. Okay.
And that allows you to kind of see where all of the other elements come in. Your riposte, right?
Mm.
Your deflect and hit, right? Or riposte. And then, might be engagements on the hand, trapping, that kind of stuff. Your
Okay.
hubud range or your sombrada kind of thing. You might find a quick glimpse of that after that.
Okay.
But initially, he wants to probably circle this guy. Because if he's here and they're face to face, he wants to turn and he wants to take a little step so that he has to break center line discipline to hit him.
Mm.
So really, that's the thing. I want him to break center line discipline in order for him to hit me. The same thing here. If and you do it now, baiting him in. So if I stick my weapon out here, now I know this guy because I established his tendency wants to hit my hand.
Right.
So I give him my hand over here. And then he broke
Yeah.
center line discipline, if you understand what I'm saying. By trying to strike that weapon, he gave me that line.
Okay.
That's referred to as central line, right? So this being center line, and this being central line, and this being central line, and this is the flanking position, right?
With flanking. Okay.
So what I want to get him to do in this case is to swing at me over here. See, then I can just strike him at will. I don't want to be right here where I have to get into
Yeah.
the exchange because I'm too slow. I slowed down a lot, right? So that's kind of how we start to get them to kind of, like I said, create the opponent's movement, right? So
Sure.
you should have talked. Sorry, Doc, you get hit. Oh, so that's kind of another level up. Okay, just from the
Okay.
basic timing, rhythm, structure. We start to bring them into that, and once they understand basically we have, 5 positions, okay, that we use. And you'll see them in every martial art, Japanese martial arts, European martial arts. You'll see this same pattern, okay? Then we try to, again, break that down. Okay, just get rid of that because nobody's going to do exactly like you expect because they don't have any training.
Right,
So
right,
how
right.
many people with training in Filipino martial arts are actually in prison for murder versus just people with no training that are in prison for murder?
Yeah, yeah.
So they may not know how to play chess. They're playing checkers.
Right.
And if you're playing chess and they're playing checkers, you might find yourself in a situation you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, like if we're playing chess and you start winning, I'm going to flip the board and then punch you. Right. So just to distract. So that's kind of how we view the art as you start to get to higher levels. Is not really to go stick against stick, or knife against knife, or sword against sword, but really to go more that person, right, against me who has all this training. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, yeah. No. Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking for in the advanced level is a student who can use what they've learned to defeat any opponent, as opposed to using what they've learned to defeat a mirror of themselves.
Okay. No, well said.
For instance, if I spar with Doc knows all my tricks, right?
Okay.
Okay, so I'd rather have someone just come in off the street and try to whack me in the head. I'll learn more from that person than I do from sparring with Doc.
Yeah, somebody who sparred for like 5 years now.
Right.
Yeah.
And
No,
learn all my
understood.
dirty tricks, right? So
Yeah. No, it's right. It actually become harder to spar against because no, understood. Yeah.
So you kind of can get easily indoctrinated into one system. And then that system drives everything you do. Like Wing Chun. You ever see a Wing Chun guy win a fight on YouTube?
Not yet.
No, because they always what? But that's
Yeah,
not
that
real Wing
whole
Chun
center.
because they
I
don't
know.
understand. That's just like standing there with a stick saying, right?
Yeah, and
I'm
going
going to block and then
and
I'm
walking
going to
around like this.
Yeah, that's not really
Yeah.
probably going to help you.
No.
So,
Yeah, I know.
we have a very structured way of teaching. However, the higher you get in rank, we try to get rid of that kind of structure.
Yeah.
Even if, can you guys demonstrate probing? So, you know what I'm talking about? You get goggles in case. So they'll just demonstrate an attack that is designed to determine the tendency of the opponent. So what he wants to find out, will this guy block my attack? Will this guy strike my hand? Or will this guy charge and try to take me down?
No, probing is critical. Yeah. How they respond? How do you find out how they respond?
Exactly. So he's just going to do it from a very obtuse angle. He wants to step out and see what he's going to do, and then he can make a determination of what his attack will be.
Okay.
Are you able to see what they're doing?
Oh yeah. No, fine. Yep.
So they just are using that to kind of determine, will this guy block? Will he hit my hand? Will he try to tackle me? Will he rush in and you know what I mean, like a caveman?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so we begin to try to spread that way of doing it, so that they understand that the structure they learned was for a reason, but then they also can't just adhere to that. Just like for yourself, you're training with many different instructors.
Yeah.
And you
I don't
probably
recommend it though.
I'm only going to do this system today.
Yeah.
If you didn't train with many different instructors, you might say, well, no, my instructor said we always have center line and we always block. But because you train with all these different people, you have the point of view that, hey, you're not offended by someone saying that, blocking is the best and you always block first.
Right.
other people might say, hey, you're criticizing the way I do things.
Yeah.
No, I'm not, because we do that training too. And we do the training where you block, stick up, stick down. We do that kind of training, but we also then want to move away from that so that now one has a knife and one has a machete, right?
Okay.
And this guy will use, understanding to maybe draw that person into hitting him, okay? So that he can
Yeah.
overcome the distance. Really, a person with a machete should always beat a person with a knife, theoretically,
Yeah.
because he has the range. But if you can get the person with a long weapon to make a mistake, then you can overcome that advantage they have in distance. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Absolutely.
Okay. And so that's where, I really got the understanding is from, if he has can you grab a stack? If he has a weapon this long, and I have a blade this short, I really cannot, I don't know if we're on camera,
Close the door.
I can't fight this guy like this, right? I really have to let him attack, right? I can't fight him at his distance. He's gonna just kill me, right?
Yeah.
We think of
Yeah.
that as a
Be
spear
tough.
and all staff, right?
Yeah. It's be really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Now some people will use it differently. They'll use it like this, right? If I strike like that, right, that's different than if I'm crossing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you can keep the guy at the end of your weapon, and he's got a knife, I mean, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
If the guy with the knife can get inside of your weapon,
Yeah.
now you're in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a tough battle. Yeah. It's
Kind of a philosophical battle, basically, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So
I do like those configurations though, like where you go short against long or really long against short or single against double. It's definitely eye opening. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
yeah, and then we'll take like for this. Can you grab the machete? Right. So now I want to use a machete in the training a little bit, right?
Mm.
So this is not razor sharp, right? So I could touch it, okay? But can you just bring the camera back? So I'll just demonstrate that it is effective. So if I take this and this is my throwing target, right?
Okay.
So this is really a big piece of block of wood. If I strike that, that's going to split your wig, right?
Yeah, I would say.
I mean, if you get hit in the head with that, that'll bum you out. Now,
Yeah.
the reason we do the training with this, okay, because a person will move differently when they're faced with a sharp edge, and then when they're faced with a stick, and then when they're faced with a training blade.
Yeah.
Agreed? So if I take this on Bradley here, and I'm gonna, if that's a stick and I hit his arm, right? But if I hit his arm with that, guess what? See how he naturally just moved out of the way? So when I go like that,
Yeah. He's already moving it.
So that teaches us to move more and respect the blade. Because a lot of time when you get a
No,
little bit
100%.
complacent with training blade, right?
No, and the soft sticks. Yeah.
It really takes kind of some of the, just like when we do our contact training, we don't wear any gear, just goggles.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to put your face in there and strike somebody if you're going to get your face hit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would hope at least so.
Yeah, George, he got his goggles broke. So he had 2 cuts on his nose, right? So, I mean, it just makes you respect the weapon a little bit more.
100%. Yeah. I mean, agreed. Especially on that, where you're not just going in there training shots and, and just, yeah, I mean,
Well,
100%. What, do you got, I was gonna say here, how about, you got before I conclude, you got any more demos or whatever? I mean, it's up to you.
What would you like to see?
Well, let's see. Sure, whatever. I mean, stash, short and long, whatever you want to do. Honestly, whatever.
How about just a couple of quick blade things, and then
Perfect.
let's just say, for instance, Doc will attack me. Just grab a knife. Yeah, another one. So let's just say, we're not going to do a numbering system because when I'm walking down the street here and this guy comes up, now I'm looking at body language. I see he's hiding something, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, I'm going to want to get away from him. Okay? Let's just suppose right now I can't. And this actually something similar happened to me last year, right? But as this guy approaches, if I can't get out of the way and he thrusts me at that distance, if I grab the knife, now we're in a fight over the knife. So really what I want to do when he thrusts me is turn my body. You see that?
Yep.
Just strike him, right? And then I just turn my body back, and that just gets me the knife. So instead of putting my hands out and trying to fight that, I really let him penetrate that space. And if I can't see now, this is where I start to get the knife out. You see?
Yeah.
Okay, as opposed to this here, which takes too long.
Tap, man, to me, that whole, I don't want to get political, but yeah.
That's the things I said I would sidestep those questions.
No, we'll sidestep it. Yep.
So the same thing here, if he thrusts me and I can't go this way, see, I just hit his hand, and that way I can eject a weapon. If it doesn't eject, that hurts a little bit.
Okay.
See where I can capture it? Pull your arm out, Doc.
Yeah.
So now I have the ability. Now I do it just like I'm drawing my pistol. Follow that.
That's the huge fan of that overhook position to draw an equalizer. I think it's so underrated. You know what I mean? You get a good cinch in that overhook. It's deceptive. The control that you have of their wrist area for you to draw. I mean, I'm a fan. Big fan of that. I think that's really undervalued.
Yeah, that might be something I might use over what we call cover and hit. I like that too, but this gives him the opportunity to return that, right? So I really don't want him to have the opportunity to do that.
No. I mean, as much as humanly possible.
And in fact, the sooner you contact his hand, the sooner he's going to change lines or retract his weapon.
Yeah, no, it's like giving him a bunch of darts. I mean, when are we going to land? In other words, you have to go from the mindset of defending to stopping. And that's why I see a lot in FMA with knife. I see defending, like the whole mindset, okay, defend. No, you need to go to mindset stopping. In my opinion, I don't know. I just
that would be my opinion too. You want to take the person out and
I don't want to have you reload. You know what I mean? It's like the analogy of this. Okay, you shoot your clip, and I'm going to give you another clip here so you can get me again. And so when you're seeing this passing, like, why on earth am I going to be passing this knife back and forth?
Right.
Like I never understood that. I don't know.
Yeah, those things are really just timing and rhythm, and they're exercises, just like lifting weight, right? But
yeah.
Protect you from a knife fight, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where we kind of start to get away from all that, I don't like it. I don't want to say, what system I like, what system I don't like.
No. We're gonna avoid that. No, I get you. Sure.
I just don't like that method of approach.
No, I did away with it 20 years ago when it kept failing on me.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I say. And when you put it in conditions, it doesn't work. right?
Yeah, no, and the condition being somebody resisting you at full speed, full power, full
Yeah.
resistance, timing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, if you're not putting the hurt on them, all they're thinking about is attacking you.
yeah, yeah.
If you're putting the hurt on them, they're thinking about getting away from you.
Yeah, to me, I agree. There's got to be two components. One, your lever negates them from stabbing you. You put a lever on, they can't stab you. Or two, paying compliance to get to the lever.
Right.
Paying distraction, compliance,
Yes.
whatever you want to, you know.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah, I know.
approach it. Now we do all kinds of training, where we're drawing our knife from contact and that kind of
Mm.
thing. And again, I can't really. If Dr. Paxson here, let me have one of you guys do it. Who's ready? So now you put that in your pocket. If Doc attacks Brad or Brad you attack Doc. So if Doc holds up his knife, you block him. So if he blocks him, no, your hand. Put your knife away. Yeah. So if he blocks his hand, he can't really draw his knife, right? Because his attention is on defense. But if he kind of moves out of the way and lets that go, he could draw his knife and cut it.
Or like, yeah, I know that's a whole nother thing. Like I saw a video, I forget, and this guy was tapping to draw his weapon, and I'm just like,
I saw that.
you're going to die. Now, if he did an arm drag off the initial thing, and then perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It tries. I don't say anything anymore. I just don't because you know what I mean. Because I don't know. I just find it's just easier now. But behind closed doors with certain people, then I'll kind of give my. But I know. But some of the stuff these people think they're going to do, like under pressure, I don't know. I just.
Yeah. Well, I was just talking with Doc. I said, I want to make sure that we don't say anything about, not to offend anybody about.
No, because right,
what
and I'm trying to do the same thing. Like I don't, because here's the thing: I have to lead by example. If I'm going out there bashing and all this on the forum, not really setting a good example, trying to bring the community together.
Yeah, you're going to get 5 people to interview with you.
So I have to be very careful. So I keep it very like behind doors and all that. I just don't say anything negative and and all that. But yeah.
But again, I'm not opposed to using certain skill development exercises to give a student structure.
Oh, in the beginning, sure, I get that. I get that.
That's great, and I think it's good, and we do it too. But
Sure.
as soon as they get that, and we want to kind of get away from that behavior pattern because that's dangerous, in the real world.
Yeah, right. What they, God forbid, would face out there, God forbid.
As long as you got headgear on and arm guards on, right, you could do that thing and you're going to be okay. But you take that headgear off and the gloves and the protection, it's gonna, and the guy's got a kitchen knife, I mean, you're not going to want to take those cuts.
No. Yeah, and like, yeah, I know. I just, yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, you can, I mean, that's what we say. We don't want to address the weapon. We don't want to put our attention and pressure to stopping the weapon. We got to stop the person.
Yeah.
And sometimes that involves cutting their hand, right? If he attacks me at range, I will use that because he basically cut himself.
Yeah, coming in.
When he pulls it back, see, I got a clear path to his airway.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not going to do this. Right? I'm not going to reach him because we're going to tie.
No, I know. Yeah.
So I want to make that guy come to me if at all possible. And if he doesn't, then I want to trick him into doing it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Make him think he can get me so I can counter him.
Yeah. No, perfect. No, those are great. Thank you. So
that's really a simple version of,
Yeah, but you know what? I like simple.
And I think if you have that's another thing that struck me with Sifu Dan. he said, you know, there's a lot of really good knife systems, very complex, but it should be simple.
Yeah, yeah, because man, the more it gets away, the more stuff you put into it, the more it seems to get farther away from reality. The
Yeah.
more drills, the more that it's more is based on memorization. It gets farther and farther, it seems like, for what really happens out there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, with knife, man, it should be direct, simple, simply direct. It should just be like, you know, because I tell you, God forbid, man, with everything else going on, adrenaline, fear, anxiety, the moment, if you got loved ones to protect, I mean, that's a nightmare. You know,
Yeah, it is.
you know, it's
You got to be 5 steps ahead of the people.
yeah, and heavily attribute development, not like, man, I don't want to be have to based on memory.
Right,
You know?
right.
I just but this has been fantastic. So let's get back to what future goals. What are your future goals for yourself or your school?
Well, really, you know, what I'm focusing on is creating people who can teach the art.
There you go. Keep
I think
spreading
in
it.
a functional way.
Mm,
And so, like my curriculum, my structure is all based on that right now. And I have, you know, I have a few dozen people that are out there teaching my curriculum.
fantastic.
You know, people in Finland have been using my curriculum for over 20 years.
Fantastic.
You know, there's like the guy in Ohio, Jeff Robinson,
Okay.
really is in my distance program, but he's adapted it and simulated it. And heck, he's got a really good program going up there.
Oh, great.
And it's really doing well. And you know, so that's kind of my thing, is to spread the art with my vision, of course, for it,
Yeah. Right.
as opposed to, you know, maybe how many different drills can we do? I'm not that concerned with that.
Mm,
Getting the student and the people maybe who are already trained for 10 years in one system or another to see the light, or to see it as I see it.
yeah.
And like I
No.
said, 10 years from now, I might have a whole different approach to it.
Yeah, depending on what comes down the pipeline or what you're exposed to or your experiences. Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of it is based on my personal experience. I've had way too many. I used to work construction jobs and jobs in bad areas of town. So I've had my share of things thrusted at me and slashed at me, and
Yeah.
tried
Unfortunate
to hit me
run-ins.
and all kind of stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I know what worked and I know what didn't, you know.
Yeah.
So I rather try to, you know, spread that to my students. So,
Yeah. Nothing beats real experience, huh?
so
Jeez.
look at this. Joel, can you come out? Where's Joel? Joel, get up. This is Joel here. Okay, so
Okay.
Joel, he's a retired airline pilot.
Okay.
He's, how old are you, Joel? 68. 68.
So he retired just in time.
Yeah, he can use my curriculum quite well against
Okay.
an aggressive opponent. He does it all the time.
Oh, good.
So I got a student here that's 15, Caitlin. Okay, she can use this curriculum. Okay, she's only been 1.5 years. Joe's been training with me since he was what, 58, right? Or before that even, maybe 16 years. Bradley, he's like he's been training me about 7 years, right? 5 or 7. Jorge. These guys all can use this. So my goal is to get them someday so they will teach this stuff. And they understand how it works because I make them make it work.
That's
Does that make
good.
sense?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's great. And last question I like to ask everybody, just to kind of get their view and just see if what's a common response. No right or wrong answer to this. Um, as a whole, what positive changes would you like to see in our community? As a whole.
Yeah, that's really easy. Stop all the bickering over who's better. Okay,
Is
because
it the students or is it the head of the systems? I think it's the students.
yeah, it is. But look, I've had people come to train with me. Okay, they
Yeah.
come in from out of town, and they're better than me skill wise, but they want to train with me and they don't have a problem. I mean, they'll never say I'm better than you, but I can see it, right? But they
Yeah,
still want to train. So, you know, a lot of these guys think, you know, well, let's line up and see who's the best.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
stop doing that because you're doing it wrong anyway. I would never go to a person and say, okay, all right, get your machete. Let's have it out right here.
Mm,
That's silly. I'm going to be walking away from you, and if you try to chase me, I'll chop your arm off.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm not going to, you know, and so bickering about what style is better, what
No,
system is
I
better,
know.
they all have their place, right? They all have some place, and some of them, maybe the place is in the garbage, but we're not going to tell them that, right?
Oh, yeah, right, right. Always just be respectful and polite,
Let's
and
train with each other.
yeah, 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 yeah. No argument there. Yeah, yeah.
I would say probably, you know, if people would just kind of be nicer to each other and train with each other, it
Mm,
would be better. And like I told you a few months back, you know, I used to harsh people out. You know, it's like, well, what are you doing that for? You know, doesn't get you anywhere.
yeah, you know, some of the things I've said, like, just right. I mean, we're gonna have, obviously, we're gonna prefer different styles, systems, teachers, preference, all that, but doesn't mean we still can't just be amicably, have a conversation without, the bashing or who, like you mentioned, what system's better than the other teacher or what have you. I mean, to me, there's more common ground than there's differences. You know what I mean? I think it just needs just to be kind of highlighted and found as opposed to focusing on the differences. You know what I mean? Easier said than done because people, what it really comes down to, in my opinion, is emotional subjective attachments. People have emotional attachments. Well, that's my, you know what I mean? A lot of times people misconstrue, like criticism with critiquing. You know what I mean? Like, if you're critiquing something, you might not, it's not that you're criticizing a person, like you're looking at something and you're critiquing and all that. And I think there's a big difference. I really do, especially how it's worded and all that. So I think all that compiled, and what you mentioned, I think can hopefully make for a more, cohesive community.
Yeah, you
You
know,
know?
that's why I stopped really typing things to people and started doing live videos because they could see on my face when I'm talking that I'm
Yeah.
not being rude.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
being objective. You know.
Yeah, objectivity, but that's the thing, like a lot of times, objectivity gets misconstrued, as, offensive or I don't know. It's a tough society now, depending on, and I'm finding it obviously with this group and all that, like, sometimes you gotta be just, not, and I don't like overthink it, but sometimes the response is like, I more so than ever, like think about what I'm writing. Whereas before I didn't feel the need to do that. Now I'm really feeling like, yeah, and I just think it's just society and what's going on today. Just, I don't know. Yeah, it'll change.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Well, I think you're doing a
I
great
don't, I
job
don't know.
because you know you've been able to interview all these people, and everybody gets to listen. You know, and hear what they have to say, as
Yeah, yeah.
opposed
I
to
mean,
just watching a clip of them doing something. You know.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope it grows. I do. I hope we get more people on here.
I can send you some
I
names.
definitely. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh yeah. I'm always taking names. Because I always try to say like a month. Like yeah, like soon I'll be releasing December. I try to say that, but yeah. I mean, my goal is as long as the interest is here and the enthusiasm and the audience. I mean, my goal is to continue to do this until that goes away one day, or what have you. I mean, you know what I mean? Or social
Hope
media
not.
disappears. I don't know, which I'm not foreseeing. But no, I appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed the demos and the discussion. Where can people access you? Just far as website, social media. Um,
Yeah, I have like 5 pages on social media. So, I mean, if they go to Rister Martial Arts,
okay, okay.
there's a page for that, and then just my name, Jon Rister. Of course, I'm on Facebook.
So you can obviously via messenger. What about website?
Yeah, we have, it's called RisterMartialArtsOnline.com.
RisterMartialArtsOnline.com. Okay.
It's a
Okay.
long name, I know, but
Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
and that will give them access to like our programs and information. And then there's just another web page that's just RisterMartialArts.com, which is just our website, like for here at the school, and it lists some of our satellite schools and stuff like that.
Awesome. Okay.
So if you're in another area, another country, another state, you can find an instructor
Yeah.
there.
Right. Somebody. Right. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. And I always, try to. I mean, I'm happy to do it. You know what I mean? I think it's. I think it's great. Oh, Chad Bailey, nice work, Dana. John, I was teaching and that kind of stuff. Yeah, actually, Chad, don't worry. I'm going to download this pretty quickly. It'll be up on YouTube. Yeah, so I guess I'll tell you what I'm telling Chad. Yeah, so what I always do, I take this, I download it on YouTube. I mean, of course, I'll post it on your wall and what have you. For sure.
okay.
Yeah, and all that. But yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I hope things down there improve for you for this miserable situation.
Yeah, it's hope for everybody, right?
Yeah. I know some states are worse than others. Unfortunately. So hopefully you guys down there will, um, things will improve. Yeah. So, all right, sir. Take care. All
Okay,
right.
you got to start stabbing each other, will you?
Oh yeah, sure.
Just getting them to stab each other. They've been waiting. So,
Oh, yeah.
okay, guys, go ahead and start. Get a knife and just work number 5 throughout this.
All right.
So
Take
I'll
care,
have them
sir.
get to work. And Dean, again, thanks. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, anytime. Take care of yourself.
Okay, you too, sir. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thanks.
All right. Good one. Yeah, a lot of stuff we agree on, which is always nice and interesting as far as weapons and current methodologies. So who is coming up? Sunday, I'm going to find out. Could be the big three from Kalia Susamo. And what else? And then Tuesday, definitely somebody, because Thursday obviously being Thanksgiving. I think David Hines is going to be Tuesday. Really, guy who's kind of been around the whole day, and as far as Stockton, California, and Hawaii. One of the systems that have not covered yet, that's really, really rare. Or I shouldn't say rare, but just maybe unknown, is the Toboso system. So that's going to be neat. Just hearing about that. And all that, and then of course I'll know tomorrow, definitely on Sunday night. But for those who I don't see or talk to, I know a little early maybe, but if I don't, a week away from Thanksgiving, have a good Thanksgiving, and hopefully I'll see you either Sunday or Tuesday night. Those who watch, thank you for watching, commenting, and all that. If you haven't already, hit subscribe on FMA channel, FMA discussion rather, on YouTube. Good night and take care.